Welcome to My Renovation Nation, brought to you by Red Maples, a real estate performance advisory service for small multifamily real estate investors. I'm your host, Nathan Bush, and on each show I share with you lessons I learned from my friends, mentors, and personal journey in real estate. I've designed each show to inspire, motivate, and equip you for your own investing path. In today's episode, I'm going to cover why experience matters, the speed of experience. And remember, if you're watching live, drop your questions in the comments and I'll address as many as I can. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more actual insights and visit www.nathanbushmba.com for free resources to help you grow your real estate business. And now, here's the show. What is up, guys? How are you? Happy Friday. Look, experience matters. Experience isn't just about time, though. It's about how fast you can adapt, learn, and succeed. On today's episode, Why Experience Matters, the Speed of Experience, I'm diving into some tools, tips, and advice shared by high-level real estate investors. Now, these insights aren't just strategies. They're game changers from people who have been there, done that, and thrived. Whether you're building your first portfolio or scaling to new heights, this episode will give you the edge to climb faster and smarter. Now, let's take a second before we dive into this episode and I share with you some really cool things that I've learned from investors that I reached out to this past week. I want to make sure that you guys thoroughly understand Red Maples, the real estate performance advisory service. So number one, we instituted a no surprise fee guarantee. That should be amazing for many of you guys that are looking for property managers that constantly see surprise fees and charges that pop up on your owner statements. So that'll be good. We also have a performance-driven management service, which means that we help outline KPIs, portfolios. We look at budgets and we try to help you hit financial goals. We also have in-house maintenance and renovation services, and we have tailored services that are specific to identifying where your challenges are inside your portfolio. If you head over to www.red-maples.com/assessment, you can take the Red Maples assessment, and the real estate performance advisory service will jump right in there and start helping you from day one at no charge for the initial assessment. So go ahead and head over to red-maples.com/assessment, and we will be happy to have a conversation with you all about our property management services. Okay, I got the heavy lifting stuff out of the way. I want to take today's show, though, and talk all about why experience matters. Okay, I went out and asked a number of different real estate investors this question because I wanted to know what's the best tool, tip, or advice you ever received as a real estate investor. Pretty simple question, but it's impactful and it's going to change the way that you understand this real estate investing business. Whether you're a wholesaler, flipper, small multifamily investor, or you're looking to Airbnb, whatever it is, whatever your approach is, today's show is going to significantly help you to be able to formulate the outcomes that you're looking to achieve. And this whole concept of experience, I once heard it said that somebody can be in a business for 40 years, but what if they're having the same experience over and over and over again? Did they really gain any experience? They didn't learn anything from the experience they got the month or the week or the year before. And so it's critical when we talk about experience, understanding the fact that experience does matter, but applied experience matters. And so the people that I'm going to share with you, their thoughts and insights today, they have applied experience over a number of different years. And if you look at the thumbnail of this show, it talks about multi-millionaires. And so there's multiple people on this show who happen to be millionaires. And I have a couple pieces of advice from people who actually are multi-millionaires in this show today. So you're not going to want to miss the information that I have to share with you. You know, I absolutely love the concept of learning from other people. You can either learn from your own experience or you can learn from other people's experience. And I love the concept of learning from others. And so when we think about advice from other people, advice is simply this: guidance or a recommendation offered with regard to prudent future action. Meaning somebody gave you some information so that you can take action on it. And by the end of the show today, I hope you have some pieces of knowledge that change the action that you can actually take to help you achieve some of the goals that you have in investing in real estate. Now, before I get into their advice, understand that I reached out to a lot of these people that I know via social media and asked that question. And so, in the midst of reaching out to them, I saw this meme and I couldn't help but not put this in the show. I had to put this meme in the show. Don't you guys agree? The meme says, I thought about quitting, but when I noticed who was watching, but then I noticed who was watching. I thought about quitting, but then I noticed who was watching. I heard it said another way, but when I noticed who was watching, right? That this quote embodies the importance of helping us achieve our goals. If I had to give you a piece of advice, which take my advice, listen to my advice, don't listen to my advice. I have got a number of great people that I went out and sought counsel from that I have to share their advice with you today. However, my piece of advice, the thing that I would throw out there for you is have a why, have something bigger that you're working for, have people that are counting on you and relying on you that don't allow you to retreat. That's the biggest piece of advice I could give you is don't put yourself in a position that you matter. You matter to somebody. Because when you see who's watching you, they don't want you to quit. And that can be the biggest turnoff for any real estate investor from the success that they want to have in their life is they start something and then don't finish it. And so today's show, let's learn to start and finish what we started, right? All right. So I want to bring up the first piece of advice from Jason Jabor. Jason is a connection of mine in real estate in St. Louis here. Met him in the local meetup clubs, and I reached out to him and asked him for his advice. And he said this whenever I asked him. It's great advice to start the show with. It says, I would say that the best advice I've ever received was given by my mentor. Okay, so first and foremost, keep in mind, Jason has a mentor. If you're right now working towards building a real estate career, it is imperative. Look, to get your real estate license, you have to apprentice with a broker for a minimum of 2 years before you can go out and even sit for your brokerage license. And so you got to understand that this business of real estate, even the government knows that it requires a mentor. So Jason said that his best advice he ever received was given to him by a mentor. He said, to scale a business effectively, you need to document all of your processes as you start. Interesting. So you need to go in and document all of your processes as you start. What if you don't know how to do a process? Well, then you learn your pain points and you hire to make your life better. So I couldn't scale these things down any better for you guys. And what a great piece of advice to start the show. Number one, have a mentor. Number two, document all of your processes. And number three, if you don't know the processes, hire people that do know the processes better than you. Hire people that make you better. Incredible advice for business. And it's all packed into this short little quote just from Jason. How about this? But it's impossible to hire and set your team up if you've never documented the processes you use. It's simple. You have to have a routine set of processes that you can teach other people to do in order to scale a business. And so your business will never be bigger than you if you don't document your processes. And Jason was so wise to share that in short work on your business and not in your business. That was the piece of advice that he received from his mentor. In short, work on your business and not in your business. Now, we know it's a deeper subject. That was probably some of the best advice that he ever received. We know that working on your business versus working in your business is a deeper subject than what we're going to get into today. However, today I actually want to help you do some work on your business. And so that's why I went out and found some of the best pieces of advice I could get from people that I know that are local St. Louis investors who invest in St. Louis, who are doing their best to scale their real estate portfolio. So again, just in short, Jason said that the best advice that he was given or ever received was from a mentor. He said To scale a business effectively, you need to document all of your processes as you start. Then learn the pain points, hire, and make your life better. It's impossible to hire and set your team up if you've never documented the processes you've used. In short, work on your business and not in your business. You have to. The working on your business is the critical piece. And a lot of times, if your business isn't as big as you want it to be, John Maxwell says, your business will never be bigger than you are. You can't be bigger on the outside than you are on the inside. And so you have to pour into yourself things like Mind Renovation Nation, upcoming events like Tours and Pours, or some of the River City Roundtable, now rebranded as Gateway to Freedom Meetup Group. You've got to attend some of these things and get in part of the process and start to absorb and grow yourself so that you can achieve what you want to within your business. Jason, I really appreciate your advice. And it's critical for any business owner to understand that they have to work on their business and not always in their business. And sometimes that's working on yourself because your business will never outgrow you. Okay. So there are 3 failure points in the real estate investment business. Okay. And these are 3 failure points that I have just accumulated. I have learned from some of the research I did. And there's a really cool book by the Harvard Business Review Guide to setting your strategy. And these tips come out of that book as well. But this is all about the real estate business that I have learned over a number of years. And you have to have, there's 3 parts of your business that can fail. Okay. You can fail in strategy, you can fail in implementation, or you can fail in execution. All 3 of those things have to work in sync, and they're not the same thing. A lot of people think implementation and execution are the same thing. Those are not the same thing. Look, in that Harvard Business Guide book, Guide to Setting Your Strategy, Kevin Farrow says that there's 2 strategies in a business. There's a corporate strategy and a business unit strategy. So those 2 things are separate, and you need to learn them both. But they frame and guide all of your decisions. And so it's critical that you have a strategy that's appropriate for the marketplace. Now, implementation, this is decisions and activities that are required to put 2 sets of strategic choices into effect. So you have the corporate unit and the business unit that both have strategies. And then you're going to have a framework for decisions and activities so that you can implement those strategies. Those are called policies and procedures for those of you that are wondering. That's the checklist that Jason was talking so eloquently about in the previous slide. We've got to have the corporate strategy, the business strategy, and a tool that we can implement that strategy with. And those things have to be in alignment. And then execution is different than implementation and strategy as well. Execution is the decisions and activities you undertake in order to turn your implementation strategy into commercial or economic success. And so if you're wanting to have success, you've got to get the best possible results from a strategy and its implementation. Okay. So that's what execution is getting the best possible results from your strategy and your implementation. When you do these things correctly, your business can still fail. But it absolutely will fail if you don't have a strategy, you don't implement correctly, and you don't execute correctly. Does it make sense? Now, the question I have for you is, what's most important? Out of those 3 things, what's most important? The strategy, the implementation, or the execution? What do you guys think? Put it in the comments. You guys are watching live or on replay. What do you think is the most important thing to get right? The strategy, the implementation, or the execution? Yeah, it's a question I had for myself, because what if you have the best strategy, but your people can't execute? What if you have a good strategy, but your implementation of that strategy is poor, even if you have great executors? How about the last thing? What if you have a poor strategy, but great implementation and great execution? Which one's the most effective? Throw it in the comments. What do you think? Let's take the rest of the show and see if we can figure out the answer to that question. What is most important? Now, I have another Facebook friend of mine, also local St. Louis real estate business owner. Okay, guys, business owner. But he looks at his business like a real estate investor. and he's been relatively successful. He does really, really well. Okay, I would get into the details with you because I'm going to make sure that David, that you get opportunity to see the show as well. And I would hate to offend anybody by giving too much information away. But David's not a close friend. He's an arm's contact friend. Okay, so David Marks, I know him through people and of the community that we also, the circles that we run in, but we've never become as close as some of the other people that I have that I'm featuring in today's show. So just as a heads up, I know of him, and I'm very intrigued by the work that David's been doing. And so I reached out to him because he's extremely successful. And he said, so this is what he wrote back to me. He said, "Hey, Nathan, so I've been thinking about this throughout the day." Okay, I'm going to pause there. I know you guys are seeing that I'm breaking these comments down because I find them motivational and inspirational. I love that David Marks didn't just give me an answer. He didn't just willy-nilly throw out a piece of advice that he had received from another person. So many times in our business, we just execute, but we never stop to think about our implementation and strategy. And I love that David, even in his response to me, took time to stop and think all day about the response to one question he was asked. Okay? And he had this to say. He said, "I don't think that there's a tip that I've received that's been super inspirational." So he doesn't think that there's a tip that he's received that's been super inspirational. Here's what it is for David. It's listening to my internal compass on what life is asking of me. Now, I asked him to share with me the best tool, tip, or advice that he's ever received. And here David is thinking, understanding that there's nothing that's been super inspirational or tip that he receives that's really going to change people. But he thought it was important to share with you, the audience, and me, that he listens to his internal compass and what life's asking of him. Think about that, guys. Here's a successful business owner. He's taking the time to respond to one inquiry that he got and how important this is to him. He showed me that he cared by explaining to me that he took a long time to think about it. And that he also referenced the fact that there's no tip or inspirational piece of advice that's going to change your life in the real estate business, or any business for that matter, where you're going to have ultimate success and find success. It's listening to his internal compass and what life's asking of him, slowing down and paying attention to the things that are going on, not rushing into the execution of things, not just going to buy a property to flip. Okay? If I had to say this directly, don't just go buy a property to flip. Don't just go buy a rental property and think you're going to get rich. You have to slow down and listen to your internal compass. So many times we rush through things in life. We want to get the end result without taking the time to set up the proper strategy to get the end result. What else did David have to say? He goes on to say this. He says, because of the start of 2024, I had zero intention of setting up a financing company to accept car payments from individuals. Okay, so David Marks runs a repair shop, and he had no intention of setting up a finance company to finance cars for individuals. And he kept getting asked about it. I asked him for advice on real estate investing, but people were asking him to finance cars, asking him about how do you finance these cars. And he kept getting asked. He was listening to life. He was listening to the things that are going on. Plus, he had a couple of cars that he bought that he sold for cash. And he would have been upside down, but because he's financing them, now he's making a profit on some of his cars. Okay? So he had a strategy that he started with. He was repairing cars and he bought some cars and was going to sell them for cash, but he would have been upside down. But because he's financing them now and receiving monthly cash flow payments, just like a piece of real estate, he's now having and finding success. So he's slowing down, listening to what life has to say. He's being intentional with trying to meet the market where it's at. He's listening to life. He goes on to say, my business has always been about auto repair first model, where the sales side would complement the repair side. Okay, so there's so much when you ask people for advice and you just take the advice at face value without sitting down to think about what somebody took their time to explain to you. I am impressed with the wisdom that came out of the people within my network. When you take the time to think, because these are people that have been ultimately very successful, and you don't always look at people who are smart or wise is that they're also successful, but I don't think you can achieve any level of success without having some knowledge, and that knowledge not ultimately becoming experience, which is wisdom. Okay, applied experience is wisdom. And so he knows his business. He knows what business he's in. He had a strategy. He started with a strategy, but during the implementation of that strategy, he was still listening to the market. He made proper shifts within execution. So he made proper shifts in implementation so that he could execute with that implementation to achieve the goal of his business, which was repair first, sales second. I find this fascinating, David. What an amazing genius you are when it comes to building a business from ground up and understanding what it takes to succeed. Now he's learning to flip-flop that. Incredible. So the sales side is the main revenue stream, and the auto repair supports the cars that he's buying and selling. That's what I believe life is asking me to do. That's what he says. David, incredible. So now you were able to listen to the market, make a shift and pivot. You completely understand what it takes to succeed in the business that you're in, and you understand now what business you're in. You're selling the cars, and the repairs are the ongoing revenue stream. Okay, guys, when you think about real estate, there's a lot of different strategies and approaches you can take to real estate. Maybe you're a real estate agent. Maybe you're a property manager. Maybe you're in construction, but real estate is something that's of interest to you. And so you work with real estate investors. Maybe you're a small multifamily investor, a large multifamily investor. Maybe you flip houses and that's your jam and that's your thing. Look, guys, whatever business you think you're in, that's the initial strategy that you took in order to achieve the outcome or the goal. You had a strategy that you were working through. But during the implementation process of implementing that business to achieve the outcomes that you're looking for, does your strategy need to shift? Does it need to change and pivot? It doesn't matter what you pick or what you think you are doing. You have to adapt and you have to overcome and you have to listen to what the market is asking you to do. And so David finishes up by saying, what I love about it is I'm able to put good, hardworking individuals in vehicles that they otherwise would not be able to get finance for. Thanks again for thinking of me, man. Much appreciated. So to finish up with David's advice for my audience about the best tool, tip, or piece of advice, he goes on to share inspiration for his market and to let them know how much he values his market. See, he understands I have an audience. You're the audience. And so he's sharing a piece of advice, telling you what his business does in a way that will help you, but also in a way for you to understand if you need his help. Guys, this is critical. Really think about your strategy, your marketing, your approach, what business you're in, how you're approaching the marketplace, the way you talk to people, the way you're going to show up in the market, who you are, and who knows you. You got to put the right strategy together so that you can implement and then ultimately execute on that strategy. David, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and advice with the audience here. You're having an impact on people's lives. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that there are some myths when it comes to strategy. And the first myth is that strategy is always long term. That is not the case. As you can see with David and with Jason, who both so eloquently shared with you, strategies change. Sometimes we have to come up with short-term strategies in order to help us hit specific achievement and milestones and to work through difficulties and obstacles. And so strategy isn't just long-term. Strategy can be short-term, guys. And if you're a small multifamily real estate investor, sometimes your strategy has to shift and pivot. If you think about shifting and pivoting, wouldn't you guys agree that it's always better to slow down and do something right the first time than to consecutively do something wrong? Yeah. So if you're going to consecutively do something wrong, why not take the time to slow down, let life share with you, and make the appropriate pivots and adjustments? We always want to rush from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing without allowing the invisible force of the truth, without allowing the visible force of kindness, without allowing the invisible force of positive energy, without allowing life, guys, to help us make the adjustments that we need to make so we can achieve the goals that we're trying to achieve. Sometimes we try to do it our way, and our way isn't necessarily the right way. Now, with that said, you guys have met Josh Weisler before. Most of you guys that are watching online or watching on replay, most of you know Josh. Josh runs in the same networks and circles I do. I've had Josh on my show. I've spoken at Josh and Rich Grove's event, Gateway to Freedom. Josh, by the way, again, thank you for coming in and sharing with me some wisdom. You don't even know you shared this wisdom with me, though. So if you're watching this show on replay, it's because you answered this question, but you answered it directly on your Facebook feed. And so that's where this information came from. But it was so appropriate for this show that I had to share this with my audience. And so Josh is part of that. Thank you again for sharing this out on your Facebook feed. Josh said, venturing into the unknown. Every entrepreneur faces moments where the path forward feels unclear. Remember, Josh is a real estate investor. For those of you that have been watching my show for any period of time, you know that Josh owns small multifamily real estate, looking to get into larger multifamily real estate deals and transactions. The guy is just a whirlwind of knowledge when it comes to real estate investing, so building businesses. And so every entrepreneur faces moments where the path forward feels unclear. When the business you've built needs to evolve into something bigger, better, and more aligned with who you are and your vision. I'm going to stop there. So Josh is speaking exactly to this myth. This first myth is that your strategy has to be long-term. And Josh is saying that when you've built the business, you understand that your business is going to change. It's going to evolve. And that's okay. It's going to get bigger and better and more aligned with who you are and your vision. Remember, I told you at the beginning of this show, your business is never going to outgrow you. You are always going to be the lid, the top of your business. And so as your business is evolving and you're looking at the strategy, implementation, and the execution of your business, just know that the change is part of the process. What wise words, Josh. He says, these pivotal business transitions can be daunting, intense, and filled with suffering. But they're also where the greatest transformation happens. Those transformations that you're looking for, the quantum leaps in your business, they're going to happen in your frustration. They're going to happen when people are asking you to do things in your business over and over and over and over and over again, and you quote unquote don't want to do those things. You want to be doing something else. When you stop and listen, you're going to understand that most of success in life comes when we overcome the valley and we start rising the mountain on the other side. We start climbing the mountain on the other side. Most of success is just beyond your frustration. I don't know why life's set up that way. You have to ask God when you get there, but that's the way it's set up. You can't have success without struggle. It never comes without some type of price that has to be paid. And so ultimately, pivotal business transitions, when we're feeling that sense of pushback, that is the thing that we have to conquer. And oftentimes we find these things that are little things that we let them pile up over time and over time and over time. Those little things become giant mountains for us to climb. Where if we would have just took care of them when they were small, we could have got over them faster. And so the transitions are going to happen. How you respond to them is ultimately whether you grow or not from them. Because sometimes you can allow transitions to sink you. That's why a lot of you guys have heard the switch in terminology. Our organization is now a real estate performance advisory. We've made shifts in our business to accommodate what's being asked of us in the marketplace at Red Maples. What shifts do you need to make in your business to ultimately achieve the outcomes and dreams that you have for your life? Josh, what a great piece of advice. That the success often comes from those pivots or struggles. And when we feel the most suffering, that's where the biggest transformation's coming from. Josh goes on to say, at Emerging Executives, we've guided dozens of entrepreneurs through these business transitions, helping them find clarity, take bold steps, and approach their business in a more empowered way. Sounds a lot like the show that we're talking about today in the 3 points of failure that most people have, either in clarity or their strategy, steps in their implementation, or their approach, their execution. See, Josh already understands this stuff about strategy, implementation, and execution. He understands it at such a level that he's able to guide dozens of entrepreneurs through the transitions. He goes on to say, and now we're again stepping into our unknown. We're evolving in our mission and who we serve. And we can't wait to share what's next. More to come. See, one of the things that you have to learn to do in your business, if you're growing any business, is learn to build anticipation with other people. I know it can be challenging because we just want to share what we know and why we know it and how to achieve it. And we want to share the levels of success that our business is having. We want to share it because it's important to us. But what we don't understand, or what we're still learning, and what we will eventually as a group here come to realize, is we're growing a real estate business. It's still about building anticipation. See, when we're going to lease a property, if you don't tease the property that's coming, yeah, you can get people onto your list. But how much more impactful and powerful is it to have a list of people who are already ready to tour your property because you teased the property properly and had them show interest or signal interest that they're interested in the property, and then release the property for tours, that it's move-in ready and that kind of stuff. That's what Josh is doing in his post here, while he's also sharing the best piece of advice that he's ever learned. The best piece of advice that he ever learned was exactly what he helps people with now. It's what he's already grown through, the transitions in business. And he learned to make that his point. Guys, if you need help with strategy, implementation, or execution, especially in your business, Josh is a business coach. Go work with him. Reach out to him. Josh goes on to finish his post by saying this. In the meantime, what's the biggest unknown you are navigating in your business right now? Why? Because he cares. See, a lot of these entrepreneurs, you don't miss the entire point of this show was that I reached out to people and asked them for advice, and they cared enough to provide thoughtful answers. And that's why these people are successful already. If you have somebody asking you for something in your life and you're not listening to what's being asked and you're just rushing through the process and you're not taking time to figure out how this works within the strategy, implementation, and execution of your business, and you think that you had to stick to this long-term strategy versus allowing your business to pivot and migrate, and you're not growing within your business, guys, you're never going to hit the goals that you're trying to achieve. These are why these guys are extremely successful and why they were willing to provide this advice for you. They want to help you. And that's why I take this advice to heart when these guys share it with me. And they're great. Josh is a great friend of mine. I know Jason, David, we're getting to be better friends. I appreciate you sharing on the show. And I appreciate you guys sharing with the audience, because this is how we learn. We grow together as a community. So myth number 2. So myth number 1 was that strategy has to be long-term. That's not true. Here's another not true thing that a lot of people think about strategy. Okay? That there are no competitive advantages left. Real estate is real estate. It's a commodity. How do I get competitive advantages in real estate? And so they get frustrated. They don't even get started, or they just think they need to do what everybody else does. That's a losing strategy. I love what James Gleason had to say when asked this question, guys. James, incredibly successful real estate investor, has small and large multifamilies, built a portfolio, retired at a very young age. I think he was retired by age 29 through real estate. And he had this to say and share with you guys, the audience. He said, focus on operations, and everything else, finding the deals, finding the money, will be easier. Okay. You guys get the drift of what we're doing in the show now. We're breaking these quotes down. Focus on operations, and everything will be easier. Not simple, not easy, just easier. Real estate is not an easy business. Okay, it's a difficult business. Nobody wants a phone call at 3 a.m. that their toilet is overflowing inside their house, doing thousands of dollars of damage to a piece of property that they purchased. Nobody wants that phone call, okay? It's not easy to ask somebody for money. Hey, I need $500,000 to buy this piece of property. That can be a very difficult conversation to have. But what makes it easier is when you focus on operations. Now, the myth is that there's no competitive advantages left, that this is just a commodity business, but yet James is saying that it gets easier when you focus on operations. James' competitive advantage is his operations. Guys, very successful real estate investor, absolutely imperative that you listen to the information that they're sharing if you want to be successful in real estate. Now, you need to formulate your own strategy. You need to formulate your own implementation, and you need to make sure that you're executing on that implementation and strategy. But James's competitive advantage that he chose and that he leans on is his operations. Operations consists of construction management and property management. Now, construction management and property management. Think about that. Okay, so whatever it is, let's say that you run a marketing agency. I'm using this for a specific example. I'll get back into the real estate example in just 1 second. But for you guys that are business owners that are watching me, you guys that are leaders within your career and you're trying to set aside money to buy real estate, listen to what I'm about to say to you. Construction business and management business. Those are the two things that make his competitive advantage. Okay, what is construction management? Construction management is managing from the acquisition of something new, the ability to renovate that in a cost-appropriate way in a timely fashion. So taking something that has little value, not no value, but little value or rundown value or undervalued, adding value to it in a timely fashion and putting it back on the market or turning it back over to a sales team. Okay? Construction management. You got to buy materials. Those materials are used by laborers that you manage the project of. Do you see what I'm saying? Construction management. Or how about property management? Leasing a property, renewing a lease, and collecting the rent. Sales, retention, collections. Same is true in any form of any business. Sales, retention, and collection. If you're thinking about it from a hiring standpoint, finding the new employee, retaining the employee, getting the performance out of the employee. All success in business comes down to these core principles that don't change. And James is sharing with you the competitive advantage that you get out of your business is, regardless of the strategy, regardless of the implementation, you can still have a competitive advantage in your ability to execute and get things done. It makes everything easier. A lot of businesses don't have one competitive advantage anymore. They look at many competitive advantages. For instance, one of the competitive advantages that Red Maples has that other property management companies in the area have is that Red Maples isn't just property management. Red Maples is a performance-driven management organization, but we're a real estate performance advisory, giving us the ability to look at multiple things. Do you need to sell off assets? Do we need to review the financials of your organization and put together a good budget for you because you're overpaying for certain things? Do we need to look at refinancing aspects of your portfolio because right now you're paying too much of your cash flow back to the bank and you're not making any money off of your real estate? We can look at multiple aspects of your real estate investment and help you make the best decisions together as a team. Then we can put together the strategy, the implementation, and the execution. One of the cool things is the clients we look for, we have the implementation and the execution pieces already severely buttoned up. And when I say severely, I mean I could walk you through our checklists, which is the implementation that we do, and I can tell you some of the results. One investor we started with had over 25% vacancy. We were able to reduce the vacancy to just under 9% right now, and we're continuing to reduce that vacancy even further. We can do these things in your organization. It's just a matter of having the right strategy in place, but back that strategy all the way up and get us involved from the very beginning of what you're doing with your rental portfolio. Let us help you. That's why it's a real estate performance advisory. And so that's the competitive advantage. We have a lot of them. One is a performance advisory. One is the no surprise fee guarantee. It's not a major competitive advantage, but it's a big competitive advantage. There's management companies out there that will nickel and dime and charge you for every little thing. We don't do that at Red Maples. Okay. So understand that what James is sharing with you is the exact formula for success in your own business to help you break this myth that there's no competitive advantage in real estate anymore. There is. He says no one focuses on operations these days, and this will set you apart. What if you had a business unit strategy for the operations of your real estate business? Remember, there's a corporate strategy and a business strategy, a business unit strategy. The business unit strategy is over operations. You can have a strategy for marketing. You can have a strategy for operations. You can have a strategy for the construction. You can have a strategy for each one of these things in your business, but you got to have a corporate strategy that's in alignment with each one of those business unit strategies. So no one focuses on operations these days, and this will set you apart. James, you could not be more accurate. What an incredible piece of advice from a very successful real estate investor that's helping you guys understand that it's not easy, but things can get easier when your team can execute, when you can execute on whatever the strategy is. And then you can share that execution with other people. If our organization didn't take one of our properties from 25% vacancy to under 9% vacancy, and we're talking tens of units at this property. So from 25% vacancy to under 9%. And the market, by the way, is at 30% vacancy right now. There's a apartment community in the exact same area with rents that are half of what the rents are at the property that we manage. And they are like 70% vacant right now. The average in the area is 30%. They're in that same time frame. So if you can execute, you can share the results of what you're doing, and that is a competitive advantage. James, incredible piece of advice for the audience. Thank you very much for taking your time. I know you just got married. Congratulations to you and your wife. And I look forward to seeing all the success that you continue to have in your real estate business. Thank you very much, James, for sharing with the audience. All right. So we've heard from Justin. We've heard from Josh. We heard from David. We heard from James. Before I get into my next real estate investor, by the way, I want to make sure that you guys see that each one of these investors has a different strategy for their real estate investment, a different corporate strategy, and then different business unit strategies. They all operate differently. One of the investors, they buy small multifamilies. Another investor buys single families. Other investors buying large multifamilies. Another investor wasn't even in the real estate business. They were in the car business that kind of operates like the real estate business. See, guys, they're all from these different strategies. They all have different implementation and they all have different execution, but they're all extremely successful. And so before I get into this next investor, and this next investor has been a close friend of mine, known this gentleman for a long time. He's a flipper. Okay. He flips homes. And he would say, you don't need a digital strategy. You don't need a digital strategy in order to be successful in business. However, the myth is that you need a digital strategy. This next person would say you don't need a digital strategy. You don't need to have a specific strategy at all that's just focused on just one aspect of your business. You need to have an entire corporate strategy and then business unit strategies that align with those things. What I love about this next person is that he's very I'm trying to find the proper words to describe Brad Thomas. Okay. Very intelligent, very streamlined, very structured, but also one of those guys that doesn't put too much fluff in anything. Okay. Just brass tacks, gets to the bottom, gets to the most simple root of whatever you're asking the gentleman. He processes it all so well and so eloquently boils it down into a few words. And that's what I love about Brad. Brad Thomas says this. He says, get organized with your books. Set up QuickBooks and T-sheets. Get your eyes on the property. Don't trust anyone's word, only your eyes. Okay? I love this advice from Brad. And again, spot on when it comes to the real estate business. You want to know what makes Brad sincerely strong in his execution of what he's doing and why he's getting results in the real estate business and been able to flip a number of different houses and build his entire wealth off of flipping single family homes, about that $200,000 range homes. Here's why. It's not that he doesn't trust anyone, okay? It's that you have to put your eyes on what people are telling you. People's words, the semantics matter. And so until you can verify it's at your standards, the words that they said to you are not to be trusted. They can still be trusted as a person. Somebody can tell you something, it'd be different than what you understand it, and there'd be miscommunication, and they thought something was done. You get over there and see that it's not done to your standards, and so it's not done, but it didn't mean they lied to you. So don't trust their word. Go put your eyes on it. That's why you get results. That's why you get results. You also have to be organized. Part of the implementation and execution of this business, what separates the cream when the cream rises to the top here is the people that are the people that are organized, that know their numbers, can track properly and efficiently manage their assets or resources. That's what T-Sheets does. It allows you, T-Sheets is a tool that allows you to verify the amount of time somebody was working on a specific project. And QuickBooks allows you to see your numbers. So you got to see your numbers. You got to manage your resources efficiently and effectively, and you have to get your eyes on the property. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people like to hire good property management companies, because they put their eyes on the property. Another competitive advantage of our organization is that annually we go by and do a inspection of the property when the tenant's still in there. And so those quarterly inspections that became semi-annual inspections and now annual inspections for our organization, we found that you don't have to be at the property 4 times a year, but you do have to be at the property. And so we have an annual inspection that we do to verify and put eyes on the property and see, did the tenant move in people they weren't supposed to? Do they have unauthorized animals or pets inside the unit? Is the tenant tearing up the property? Are they doing what they said they're supposed to do while they're taking care of the property and they sign the leases? Is it to your expectations? Did you put eyes on it and see it and verify that information? And if you have somebody on your team, did you give them a checklist and share with them your expectations? And did you verify that your team member actually drove over there and put eyes on it? Or did you personally drive over there and see your property? Are you trying to buy a property without ever seeing that property? Guys, these are all terrible things. And so that's why the myth is that you have to have a digital. It doesn't help you in real estate to just have a digital strategy. You have to have a strategy in the implementation process and execution for every aspect of your business. Brad recommends QuickBooks and T-Sheets are 2 incredible tools that have transformed his business and life. But there are a number of different tools that are out there that you can utilize to track your resources, assets within your business, but you have to track it. Brad, I can't thank you enough for sharing with me your wisdom on how to be a great real estate investor. And that's why I look up to you, man. You do such a great job. Taking an idea that you had so many years ago, number of years ago, we've been friends for a while now. You took an idea, you said, I want to flip houses. And that was your strategy. That was your corporate strategy. Then you implemented certain tools so that you could track your assets properly, understand your money, but then you never forgot the execution piece, which was to go buy the property and verify and put your eyes on it. That's why you're successful. At least it's one of the reasons. And I freaking applaud all the effort that you put in to real estate. But Brad, you and your wife are phenomenal people. Thank you very much for sharing. All right, guys. I am about to wrap up the show, but before I do, I have got one final investor who invests in businesses, and that's Lisa Armosi. A lot of you guys follow Alex Armosi online, and so I saw this quote online from a Facebook post that she did, and thank you, Lisa, for allowing me to borrow this right off of Facebook. She says, honesty creates clarity, clarity creates speed, speed creates progress, progress creates momentum, momentum creates success. There go, honesty creates success. Your values matter. More important than your strategy, guys. More important than your implementation and your execution. What's the most important of those 3? Is really kind of in school they would have called it a trick question. It's your values. Your values matter more than your strategy, the implementation, and your execution, because your values will drive all 3 of those. Have you taken time to sit down and write out, what are my company's core values? At Red Maples, our performance advisory, we have a number of different core values. Doing the right thing, the slumlord versus the real estate investor. We have the core value of transparency, of seeking to understand, right? We always seek the truth at Red Maples. We're always looking to integrate innovation into our business. These core values make up who we are. They're that lid that we talk about. They're the top of the business. And so the values drive the strategy. The strategy drives the implementation. The implementation drives the execution. And that's what makes a successful real estate business, guys. And don't take my word from it. Take David's word, take Josh's word, take Jason's word, take James's word, take Brad's word, take these other guys' words on what it takes to succeed in this business, and you'll also be successful in this real estate business. And that, Renovation Nation, brings us to the end of another episode. I'm Nathan Bush, your guide on this journey of real estate business growth. Remember, just like plants need the right air, soil, and care, our minds need the right environment to build a life of purpose, passion, and growth. Don't forget to get your citizenship to Mind Renovation Nation. Follow us and subscribe to my email list, and hit subscribe on YouTube to stay updated with our latest episodes. And if you love today's mind workout, share it with a friend who's as passionate as you are about real estate business growth so that they can join us each Friday at noon. Join me next time for more insights, inspiration, and of course, a little bit of that nation-building spirit that drives us to create a community united by shared values, purpose, and a commitment to leaving a lasting legacy. Until then, keep building, keep growing, and let's lead more than 25,000 souls to a life of values-based investing. In our journey of Mind Renovation Nation, we often talk about personal growth, ethical leadership, and making impactful choices. Values-based investing is an extension of that philosophy. It's about being a steward not only of our finances, but of our values and vision for the future. Signing off from the heart of St. Louis, stay blessed, stay inspired, and remember, every day is a chance to renovate your nation.